without fear. And I really don't know how we ever got here, We let the little things pile up, we fence ourselves in. Sometimes you gotta tear it all down, start over again. Put the key in and drive, send your mind on down the road, past everything you know, turn your wheels and go just to ride. Put some blacktop in front of you, let those white lines run under you, heading for somewhere, leaving something behind, just to ride. We could burn across the desert, see those Vegas lights, take a drive down Main Street. People do it all the time, people do it all the time. Cruise up to the mountains, get close to the stars. If you find yourself unhappy where you are, just get in your car and drive. Send your mind on down the road, past everything you know, turn your wheels and go just to ride. Put some blacktop in front of you, let those white lines run under you, heading for somewhere, leaving something behind, just to ride. It don't matter at all, just to ride. It don't matter at all, just to ride. It don't matter at all, just to for victory. Canada first, baby. Let's go. Canada first. Canada first. Canada first. Canada first. Canada first. Canada first. Canada first, baby. Let's go. Fuck Trudeau. These globalists need to fall. Hey, Auntie, what do you think about this? Give me an HH. Honk, honk! It's a great day to come out here and support our truckers. Oh, look at this!
It's the fake news CBC, boys. They're going into hiding.
Fake news, go on! Don't worry, we're ready for you guys too. Yo, this guy's got the gas. Throwing for you out here, we're holding the line.
共に取り組めることを期待しています。
連日我々は協調の瞬間を刻む。それは両国が共に前へ進む覚悟を世界に示す合図だ。協調とは単なるものの交換ではない。それは信頼を共有すること、そして目的を共有することだ。中国は確信を持って動く、忍耐を持って自ら誇示する必要のない力とともに。この現実を理解する者にとって進歩とは実にたやすい。
The elbozo, or Liberalis fanaticus, is a hardy, long-lived species commonly found in the settled regions of eastern Canada, though sightings persist even in the west. This boomer subspecies has adapted remarkably well to stable habitats, paid-off mortgages, cushy pensions, and reliable access to Canadian Liberal Party talking points brought to them by the CBC. Notice the distinctive behavior, the rhythmic flopping of elbows up and down in unison, often performed in groups during moments of high agitation. The signature call rings out clear and insistent, elbows up, a rallying cry that echoes across lawns, community halls, and comment sections alike. Elbozos display an extraordinary focus on external threats, particularly the distant figure of Donald Trump, whom they perceive as a greater threat than any domestic challenge. Its attention to the affordability struggles of younger Canadians remains limited. Having long secured its own nesting site and food cache, the elbozo prioritizes the preservation of established comforts. It derives much of its worldview from a single, trusted source, the CBC, consuming daily broadcasts with the same steady dedication the beaver shows to its dam. Ever seen an elbozo? Well, look, here it is now, elbows flapping vigorously in defense of the status quo. For a more complete story of elbozos, why not contact the Canadian Wildlife Service in Ottawa?
Evan Balgord, Executive Director of the Canadian Anti-Hate Network.
Bernie Farber, Chair of the Canadian Anti-Hate Network.
He's a nonpartisan, nonprofit.
We wear our biases on our sleeves. We are very proudly anti-fascist, and we focus on the far right.
Last summer, we had a 100-year-old church burned to the ground.
Canada's leaders aren't condemning the burning of churches. No, they're endorsing the burning of churches.
I understand that it's not your organization's mandate to talk about these things. As you've said, you're clearly focused on the far right.
COVID conspiracy theories.
Safe and effective.
They kill. They kill.
This so-called convoy actually seeded the ground for the worst display of Nazi and racist propaganda that I have ever seen in this country. Bullies, racists, bigots, and Nazis.
We now have over 300 active hate groups in Canada.
There's other groups that we're very concerned about.
Jeremy Mackenzie, the de facto leader of the Diagolon movement, a neo-Nazi organization.
Accelerationists who want to violently overthrow the system.
No fighting, no spitting, no throwing anything, don't even litter.
Who are now also encouraging their members to join.
If there's a speed limit on walking, walk slower than that.
One of the key figures of that, Jeremy Mackenzie, his slogan is gun or rope.
If they say it's now illegal to look at the sky, then look at the ground. Be good, for the love of God.
Do you know if the Canada Anti-Hate Network's views about you have been relied upon by law enforcement or other senior officials in the federal government?
Yes, I have.
Diagolon.
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 A far-right extremist group.
We're talking about a group that is organized, driven by an extreme ideology.
A so-called accelerationist group.
Formed by a former member of the Canadian Armed Forces.
Which aims to accelerate racial conflict to lead to the eventual creation of a white ethno-state.
Its stated purpose is, quote, to incite a race war.
The meeting to justify a state of emergency.
The federal government has invoked the Emergencies Act.
There's some people that just want their lives back. And they enact the War Measures Act, the Emergency Measures Act, to justify a violent and brutal crackdown on old people and women and wounded veterans. You beat wounded veterans in the street, you scum!
What if I told you the organization and the individuals responsible for pushing this are being exposed right now in Canada?
It all circles back to one group, and that's the Canadian Anti-Hate Network.
That is pretty fair to say.
Liberal-funded Antifa propaganda. That's what the government of Canada was making their decisions on.
You were supposed to be grown-ups, confirm things and look into things.
The RCMP recognized that Diagolon was not a criminal group, it was not a terrorist entity, and they had trouble even defining it as a group at all. all. This whole narrative, they knew it was bunk.
The justification of the Emergencies Act during the trucker convoy came from lies from anonymous Twitter trolls from anti-hate.
Uncovered in HateGate is a string of emails from government officials.
Politician goes on TV and says that, oh, there's this terrorist group involved in the convoy. Then people say, can you back up your statement? And he says, talk to law enforcement. And then law enforcement is like, oh crap, we got to find something. So they just spend 15 minutes, Google Diagolon, and come up with this hit piece.
That Global News article conveniently sources one expert. That expert is from the Canadian Anti-Hate Network.
But it's the circle jerk, this vicious circle of one person feeding fake information to another who then finances those people to provide the fake information so they can then launder it off to whomever they need to in order to justify whatever fabricated crisis they financed that never existed in the first place.
I consider it the single most embarrassing and grotesque intelligence failure in national history.
The global roach, a resilient invertebrate thriving amid economic upheavals and political scrutiny, often labeled unkillable in government-funded media. Inhabits high-finance crevices from Bank of Canada vaults to UN climate bunkers and Brookfield boardrooms, scurrying through Davos debris and Ottawa policy piles. Survives trade wars, tariffs, and snap elections unscathed. Hoards resources from its nest to more fertile domains at the cost of its brethren. Immune to populism, it thrives on nationalism surges, observe raiding pantries in resilient economies. Tends to cower and capitulate to a more dominant adversary. Report infestations to opposition benches. For more information on the global roach, contact the Canadian Wildlife Service in Ottawa.
last to Canada. As the statue hits the ground, McDonald's head pops off.
Queen of Canada.
The children sang Dieu sauve le roi.
The Charlottetown Conference set Confederation in motion. On July 1st, 1867, Sir John A. Macdonald became Canada's first Prime Minister.
Deep within the manicured wilderness of Parliament Hill, one can observe a truly fascinating specimen, the political weasel. Known to scholars of ethics as Blackphaceus corruptus, this cunning creature has adapted beautifully to an environment thick with lobbyists, hashtags, and plausible deniability. While outwardly charming, the political weasel possesses a complex social structure based entirely on self-preservation. It communicates primarily through carefully rehearsed empathy and subsists on a diet rich in taxpayer-funded travel and curated outrage. Natural predators include weary voters and access to information requests, though prolonged exposure to friendly journalists often renders it functionally invincible. In times of stress, the Blackphaceus employs a remarkable defense display. A flourish of public remorse, followed swiftly by vacation. Over the years, several distinct migrations have been recorded. The infamous SNC Lavalin vines entangled it briefly before it slipped free on a technicality. Its excursion down the Wee Charity Trail remains a source of confusion to conservationists, as it involved both kinfolk and ethical erosion in equal measure. Yet resilience defines the political weasel. Even amid scandal, it thrives, shedding accountability with the same ease it sheds staff. Its natural camouflage, a blend of carefully tousled hair and moral flexibility, ensures survival in nearly any ideological climate. For more information on the political weasel, please contact the Canadian Wildlife Service in Ottawa.
Theirs is the voice of free peoples, freely pledging loyalty to a common ideal, a common heritage, a common tie.
I'm slowly drifting to you. a billion years away from you. I'm on my way, I'm on. We used to run wide open, living life without fear. Now we really don't know how we ever got here, ever got here. We let the little things pile up, we fence ourselves in. Sometimes you gotta tear it all down, start over again. Put the key in and drive. Send your mind on down the road, past everything you know. Turn your wheels and go just to ride. Put some blacktop in front of you. Let those white lines run under you. Heading for somewhere, leaving something behind just to ride. We could burn across the desert, see those Vegas lights, take a drive down Main Street. People do it all the time. People do it all the time. Cruise up to the mountains, get close to the stars. If you find yourself unhappy,
hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Canada First with your host, White Pill. As per always, hope your week has gotten off to a great start. Mine sure has. Lots of news coming through the pipeline. But this episode today, we'll cover some things I've been meaning to cover for a little bit now. Just haven't had the chance to. Going over the wildfires that happened 2 weeks ago, and also the recent call for the by-elections, which is pretty much a nothing burger, unless, somehow every single Liberal and NDP and Green Party member dies, which I don't hope for. I'm just saying, like, unless nothing short of that happening will ensure a Conservative victory. So that's a bit of a long shot, but in any case, before we get into all of that, may I remind you, we have some new merchandise. We got stickers. We got our lovely Elbows Up Carney stickers, illustrated here. Pick your choice, Crookfield or Don't Question Brookfield, either or. Let the people know. You can find the link in the description of every video. There is also a referral link that you can use. I believe it's to get $10 off, and there's some other benefits. But yeah, everything is in the description there. Everything should be in the live stream description as well. You can find our store there. More merch coming down the line, but this is what we have so far. So hope you guys enjoy. I believe it's just 7 for 1, and then the more that you buy, the cheaper it is. So 5 for 20, 10 for 35 or so. So have at it. And as a reminder, once again, do not post these stickers anywhere where stickers do not belong, like public transit or a university campus or a parking meter or anywhere that is generally visible by the public, because these stickers are quite big. They're 5 by 5 inches, hence the price, right? So have your pick there. We got more stuff coming down the line: shirts, hats, hoodies, and all that. It is in process of being worked out by our lovely design team. So stay tuned for that. Let me see here. What else? Oh, yes, as always, if you want to support the show, or actually, you know what? Before we even get into that, let me drop the link to the store in the chat. But if you want to support the stream, like, comment, share, subscribe on Rumble. That is our main platform. That is where everything and any and every episode of the White Pill, or rather, sorry, Canada First. I got to get that. Sorry, bad habit. The show used to be called The White Pill. It is now called Canada First. We are pivoting. We have pivoted. And so you'll find all Canada First related stuff on Rumble there. We also have a Telegram where I am fairly active. Posting voice notes every now and then. If you want to ask me some questions, that would be the best place for it. If you want to take an extra step and financially support the show, you're more than welcome to send some donations our way through PayPal, where you can actually add a little message, because I don't typically read chat during stream, so that'll really be the only way to get your question asked. Also got a suite of crypto links there as well, if you are so inclined. And that being said, yeah, we'll get into the preamble. So, just a quick side note. There was a post that went somewhat viral the other day, which doesn't surprise me at all. I think people are coming around to the exact same conclusion that I've come to, which is that we need to not centralize, but we need to make voting in elections not an automatic given if you simply stay long enough in this country. We need to make it so that it is more exclusive. Because, as I said before, I think 2 episodes ago, exclusion in and of itself is not a inherently negative thing. People exclude in different ways throughout their life, whether it's country clubs or memberships to certain gyms and whatnot. There is a a power, or rather a utility, that is afforded with the act of exclusion that you cannot get by just letting the floodgates open. And so voting is one of these things where it has now become ubiquitous that everyone has a vote, regardless of how educated you are, regardless of how caught up on the news you are, or how aware you are, um, regardless of your stake in the game. So long as you are a citizen, you are granted a vote, which needs to be desperately reworked because, look, go to your local fast food restaurant and just don't even stand in line, don't even order anything, or better yet, do, so that you don't look like a creep, but just sit in there. Sit in your local McDonald's for an hour, maybe two, and just look at the kind of people that are walking through and ordering and eating and how they communicate and how they talk. Or better yet, if you work a customer service job, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You are going to interact with nothing humans every now and then. You are going to just meet people that are unable to communicate or grasp basic concepts, and then you are reminded that these people are allowed to vote. So, because we can't disenfranchise people, right? We can't take rights away. That there's no way that that is ever going to be passed in a court of law or a government anytime soon. The only other option is to make the barrier to voting something that is either based on competency or some other figure that allows for a filter of sorts for the kind of people that have the power to vote. And a gentleman by the name of Toby Lutka, who is he's the CEO of Shopify, one of Canada's biggest companies. He went viral the other day saying that voting should be restricted to people that are not dependents. So anybody that is obviously no children, nobody that is on their pension, and so on and so forth. Nobody that is living on the government dole. He went even further to say that he co-signed this idea that somebody else posted, saying that voting should be weighted proportionally to the level of income tax that you pay, which is an interesting take, because then that just means the richest people in Canada get even more votes, which that is going to go down the tubes so fast. Actually, you know what? Sorry, apologies for having to do this. I just need to step away for 1 second. Okay, guys, just bear with me for 2 minutes. Apologies for that. We are back. As I was saying, there is a need to reconsider the barriers to voting because we have just become much too lax with the people that can participate in the political process. I mean, part of the only reason why Carney and the Liberals won last time is because the Boomers fell to the magical spell of elbows up. And the stakes are getting higher and higher with every election because we are reaching a point of no return, because whether it's with our economy or with our immigration policy, there is no rule that says the wheels are going to stay on this thing for long. There is no universal rule. Eventually, these systems will become unsustainable to manage, and the populace will become, will be paying for it actively, more so than we are now. And so, Toby and his influence and his reach made this story go viral momentarily, and now people are throwing around labels like Nazi and so on and so forth on him. But the idea is inherently a good one, right? Not because like I agree with its details regarding restricting voting to a certain tax base or dependence, but rather that the key idea is that we have to restrict voting on some way, shape, or form. Which once again brings me back to my idea, which I have now begun circulating online. Is that a quick spell check will, or rather, a quick spelling bee will achieve the exact same result, and in fact, will have a better outcome. Because tying your voting power to the level of income tax you pay, I mean, you're talking about enabling people that are not. It's not even that they're already at the top. It's that it is that much harder for anybody to get to that position of influence, especially within Canadian society. You know, we have a free, to an extent, capitalist market up here in Canada, but it is not nearly as good as what they have in the United States. The ability for people to navigate through classes and move up the ranks. I mean, it is absurdly difficult to start a business in Canada in any sector, really, just with the amount of taxes and regulations that we have for just about everything, not to mention the amount of government intervention in these businesses and in these markets that make it that much more difficult for people to participate yet again. You know, nobody is exactly quick to start up a farm these days. Nobody is exactly quick to start up giant tech startups. You know, this is something that is limited to the very few people that are able to pull something like that off. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying that it has become increasingly more difficult than it ever has been before. Right? I mean, is there really any surprise that the majority of people that graduate with solid degrees with backgrounds in coding and computer science and so on and so forth, that they go to the US? Because Canada just doesn't have the market for it. We don't have the opportunities that can compete with America's, right? If we did, we wouldn't have this issue of brain drain, but we do. And so everybody goes to San Francisco once they graduate Waterloo. But that is all just to say, tying it to your income, or tying it to rather the amount of income tax that you pay, it still does not, it would not have the desired effect, right? Whereas a spell check, right, forcing voters, or prospective voters anyways, potential voters, to on the spot spell a 4 or 5 syllable word, a random word, that will actually test for competency. Because as I said before, the language that we use shapes our understanding of the world. And so your ability to understand and comprehend complicated language will make it so that your understanding of the world is more comprehensive and more detailed. And how do I say this? more well-rounded, I guess. And so all this hatred that Toby Loika got, I mean, people have been calling him Nazi and fascist and so on and so forth. It's the usual suspects. It's the libtard. It's the boomer. It's the corporate press. I mean, he got no shortage of hate, genuine hatred coming his way for proposing this idea. But his head is his heart is in the right direction, right? The idea there is to once again make it so that voting is actually, it requires a certain amount of sacrifice and not just a default option that we give to people if they live in this country long enough. Which is absolutely right. Yeah, we should start having a serious conversation as a nation on how we can do this. Because there is a giant section of the population, sub 80 IQ people, many of which should not, you can make the argument, should not be able to vote. Because they genuinely do not comprehend the world in second and third order consequences. They don't understand long-term decision making and so on and so forth. Right? It only makes sense. It only makes sense. So I just wanted to throw that story out there. There was also another story that I wanted to briefly touch on. There's an attack in Germany that happened over the weekend, or rather, was it over the weekend? I believe it was. So, there was a man who was a German citizen, Abdul Balaut, who was shot and killed by the German police in Berlin after attacking a pride parade, killing 1 and wounding 29 with a truck. Now, this attack comes to no surprise of anyone that has been paying attention, even in the slightest, for years now. Germany has been a hotbed for this kind of extremism for a very, very long time now. And so, unfortunately, this is not really anything novel or new. But the reason that I bring this story is because at the vigil for the victims, there was a lady that came out and made this statement, which I think is, well, it kind of speaks for itself. But let's just give this some audio and hear what she has to say.
Diese Nachrichten zu bekommen, dass beim CSD ein Auto reingerast ist, ein Mann in
Okay, I did not realize that this would all just be German. I guess there is no English translation. But she effectively says, I had hoped the attacker was not a foreigner, but a white Christian person. So in the aftermath of this attack, literally like a day or two after, the response from some people on the left is that they regret that this was an Islamic migrant. Well, not migrant. The man was a German citizen, but I don't know if he was born in Germany or not. But their response is essentially to say, think of how this is going to affect the reputation and the public perception of anybody who is not of German descent going back multiple generations. Anybody that is essentially non-white. Think about the impact that it will have on their lives and how this will perpetuate a stereotype, which is, I mean, look, this is par for the course, especially for women. This is par for the course for women that are left-leaning. And it is yet another example why we need to get this kind of energy and these kind of people out of politics and out of the political realm. Women flat out do not belong in politics. They do not, because of this kind of shit. This is what they do, right? I mean, let me remind you, and Angela Merkel sat in her leadership position in Germany. She oversaw the importation of millions of migrants into Germany, right? The consequences of which are attacks like this. The consequences of which was the night where all across Germany in, what was it, like 2018? Let me see if I can find that wiki page. Sorry, 2015, 2016. Right? Where police confirmed that 1,200 women had been sexually assaulted across Germany. Mostly, if not all, by migrants. North African, Arab, dark-skinned, and foreign migrants. Right? Angela Merkel oversaw that. She was in power while this was happening. She effectively helped manufacture this. And then the reaction from the left, supporter of Merkel or not, is to say, "Oh no, if only they had been white and Christian. It's a shame they were Arab. It's a shame they were non-white, because this perpetuates a stereotype." What more could be said? I could be here for hours explaining why this is an issue, but really it speaks for itself. Because these people, they are not capable of overriding their own contradictions, their own inner contradictions. Like, they are genuinely mentally incapable of seeing the danger of these decisions and what it means for daily life in Germany for the average person, especially women and children. And if they're incapable of doing that and people are dying as a result of it, what more needs to be said? I mean, how could anybody defend this kind of ideology or these decisions that lead us to this point? And Germany is just one example. This is happening everywhere. It's happening in Italy. It's happening in Spain. It's happening in Canada to an extent. And it all comes from the same type of attitude, same type of people. This feminized energy that we have to take care of the world, that we owe it to people because of our dark colonial past and our history is something to be ashamed of. Right? Where has that led us? We have Indian truckers killing Canadians on the roads, German citizens getting plowed down on pride parades. I mean, what more really needs to be said here? This is just yet another reason. Oh, give me 1 second. Sorry, I just had to step away. It's just yet another reason why we have to root this out. Why these people, they just genuinely do not belong in any position of power. Why they don't belong in the political sphere, because this is how they behave. They are suicidally empathetic to the perpetrators and not the victims, not their own people. They couldn't care less about their own people. They hate their own people. I mean, it's almost by design that they want to make it so that that kind of way of life, that the culture, the history is wiped out because it's so hateful to them. And it comes at the cost of average, everyday people just trying to enjoy life. You know, I might disagree with the LGBTQ and whatever the acronym is these days, but I don't disagree with them enough to get into a van and to plow people. See, that's the difference between a person like myself and yourself and a migrant that comes from a country where they will gladly hang these people from the nearest tree or throw them off the nearest roof. So, anyways, yeah, that was just a little a little preamble, but we'll get into the main topic at hand here. So, the Liberal Party, or rather Carney, has announced that there will be 3 by-elections held at the end of August for 3 ridings in Ontario, Quebec, and British Columbia. Let's just pull this up here. So, with these 3 by-elections, at the moment the Liberals currently hold 172 seats in Parliament, and they are expected to win both the East York, which is in Toronto, and the North Vancouver ridings, as they are Liberal strongholds and have been for years now, ever since Trudeau and even some time before then. And the only riding that is set to potentially go the way of the Conservatives would be the Quebec riding in Chicoutimi. But even if the Conservatives win, it actually doesn't matter at all, really, because even if they do win, the numbers will still not add up, and the Liberals will still hold their majority. So that's why I said at the beginning of the show, nothing short of every candidate either bowing out of the race on behalf of the Liberals or somehow dying will have any sizable impact on what happens in this race. However, one point of interest here that I just wanted to quickly point out, the East York by-election, which was held by this man here, right? Not the by-election, but the riding, which was held previously by Nathan Erskine Smith. You'll remember that back in spring, Nate lost the leadership race to Asanul Hafiz, a pizza franchise owner. And Nate lost the leadership election by 19 votes, even though there were 34 more votes counted than there were people that actually voted on that day. There's a famous photo of Nate Erskine Smith walking outside of the polling station with his head down, which, I mean, it is just the epitome of not only that election, but the consequences of Liberal rule for the last 10 days. I'm just going to see if I can find that photo, because it's just, oh, here it is. Let me see if I can find it. No, this would be the video. No, there's got to be a good photo of this. I remember he was walking in the rain with his head down in shame or in sadness, either or, it doesn't really much matter. There it is. Yeah, here it is. It's perfect. This photo is perfect. It has everything you need. First, you have Nate Erskine Smith holding his head in his hands. You got all the fucking garbage on display. His opponent's campaign poster or stand in the trash, just scattered everywhere. Like, this is a school too. I don't understand how filthy it could get like that. And then, of course, below the Canadian flag, you'll spot the pride flag flying proudly. I mean, this is just it's too perfect. It's too perfect. But you'll remember my coverage of this when this story dropped is that this discrepancy that Nate recounted, right? How he lost by 19 votes, even though there were 34 more votes counted than there were people. Apparently, when the Liberals held their arbitration committee, they said that it was, quote, a technical administrative error caused by names not being crossed off the voters list when voters received their ballots. Now, even if that is true, okay, even if that is true, Nate Erskine Smith himself wrote a Substack piece about this after, like, that same weekend, only hours after it happened, saying that his team, the campaign manager of which has participated in elections around the world, right? He's supervised them, overlooked them, helped organize them, and manage them. He saw, right, not Nate, but his campaign manager saw that people were going up to the voter registration list, you know, to be authenticated and to receive their ballot. They were using not just ineligible identification proof, but like truly astonishing, like cartoonishly bad ways of verifying their ID, that they were who they said they were, right? People were not just using, like, I don't know, maybe an old bill or some kind of a printout. No. They were using Amazon delivery receipts and report cards to get their ballot. Not a driver's license, not a health card, not even a passport. No, 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 no. They were using Amazon delivery receipts and report cards. Which, look, I mean, if that's the lesson from the election, right? So the rule then, all you need to do to win, at least in a leadership race, maybe not a federal or a provincial election, right, for the premier or for the for the prime minister's office, is that you just get enough minorities to show up for you with Amazon receipts, and you too can win a seat at the table. This is I guess what we've come to learn about Canadian politics is that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're a citizen or not. Just show up with the absolute basest, lowest form of identification, and you too can win. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. So yeah, I just wanted to touch upon this story. There's nothing really of note. The elections are going to go, these by-elections are going to go the exact same way that you'd expect. That this is just a matter of procedure. There is nothing that will happen, like I said, short of the Liberal candidates all dropping off from the face of the earth. Not that I'm wishing that, of course, obviously. But yeah, nothing short of that will actually secure a win for the Conservatives and remove Carney's Liberals from their majority stake. So, yeah, I mean, what more could be really said? It's just business as usual. They're gonna come September when Parliament resumes. It's gonna be business as usual. So, that being said, we'll move on to our next story, which is this is something I've been sitting on for quite a bit now. This is in regards to how do I put this? This is something that I've talked about on the show before. That ever since Mark Carney has come into power with his message of elbows up, Canadians have had their chip on their shoulder grow exponentially. There's always been this kind of relationship that Canadians have had with America, despite the American military being 100 times or so the size of Canada's and in its effectiveness and so on and so forth. Despite the fact that we share the largest border, I think, of any other nation on the planet with a neighbor, a neighboring state. Despite the fact that so much of the products and the services they produce in America make their way up into Canada, whether it's the social media platforms, whether it's the music and entertainment, whether it's the actual, food, alcohol, wine, tobacco, what have you itself, the actual commodities. But despite all of that, Canadians for the longest time have had this fallback whenever it comes to any kind of political argument, which is that at least we are not the Americans, right? At least we're not Americans. At least we don't have our schools being shot up. At least we don't have the obesity rates. We're not as stupid as them, and so on and so forth. It's not a belief or an attitude that is held by all Canadians, but every now and then you would just find yourself in a discussion, whether at work or what have you, and America would be the butt of the joke. This has been an ongoing thing. I remember it very vividly in my youth, and even in my time in university. People used to compare our healthcare systems, like whenever that Michael Moore documentary came out. Was it Sicko? I think it was called. Let me see here. I believe it was called Sicko. Yes, yeah. It came out in 2007. I remember this, where Michael Moore directly contrasted the non-profit universal healthcare system that we have up here in Canada versus that of the for-profit non-universal system in the U.S. and used all these. He cherry-picked his examples and found people. And that isn't to say that America does not have a problem with its healthcare system. I mean, the amount of medical debt that people have, or the amount of issues that people go into medical debt for, or how difficult it is to have an insurance claim go through, and so on and so forth. It's not as easy there either, right? They have their own challenges. But the problem is that on a long enough timeline, it has now come to light in the last couple of years that Canada's healthcare system, which people have known for a very long time, is not just inept, but is genuinely broken. Like, people have to wait months on end to have an expert opinion on a cancer diagnosis or an ultrasound or what have you. I mean, just what was it? There was, I think it was like almost 100,000 people have died waiting for a doctor since I think it was 2018. Let me see if I can find the story. Sorry, it wasn't 100,000. Between April 2024 and March 2025. Oh, yes. So in that 1 year span alone, it was 23,000 patients died. Let me just got the story pulled up here. 23,000 patients died. And since 2018, it has now become more than 100,000. Right? So that comparison that Michael Moore made in 2007, it might have been true at that time to a very slight extent, but the issue is, right, Michael Moore could not account for the infinigeets that came over during Trudeau's time in power, which has flooded our healthcare system, and not just the Indians, but just immigrants in general. It has flooded our healthcare system, and not enough investments have gone in to make it more efficient in any way, shape, or form. In fact, the last attempt that the Liberals made at trying to make our healthcare system more efficient, it was a service that they were going to revamp so that it would be digitized, ease of use, application, or some kind of a platform where doctors could send prescriptions to other clinics with, instead of using faxes. It was supposed to essentially modernize the system. It ended up being this giant boondoggle, which cost people, the taxpayers, like, I think it was to the tune of 300 million or something like that. And when the Conservatives tried to investigate this and to press the Liberals on this, the Liberals just shut down the committee. They shut off the cameras, and so they stopped the public from seeing any amount of disclosure that came from it, and so therefore have locked the records for that hearing to be released in, I believe it's like 30 years or something like that. Right, so we've had this chip on our shoulder for the longest time, especially regarding healthcare, and yet it is so blatant to see the failings of our own system. I mean, it's gotten so bad, right, that we have had to introduce MAID, medically assisted death and suicide, right, sponsored by the government via the taxpayer dollar for people to kill themselves. I mean, is it really any surprise, and I'm just throwing this out there, is it really any surprise that the countries with the socialized healthcare systems, they are typically the ones that are adopting these kind of medically assisted suicide programs? Because ultimately what ends up happening is enough people start retiring and needing long-term health care, right? Whether it's in a hospice or, just end-of-life care, which is very expensive, right? The amount of money it takes to keep a person alive for a day, let alone a week, let alone a month, let alone years, the amount of supports they need, the medication, the labor, so on and so forth. Isn't it just much easier to shrink that equation down and get them out of the system in the first place by allowing them to kill themselves? I'm just saying the incentive is there. The incentive for the government to create such a system is there because they want to offload healthcare costs. They want to make it so that more people are able to access the system. But in order to do that, you need people to exit the system. And by exit, I mean die. So since you can't, go around massacring senior citizens, give them the option to kill themselves, which has now been opened up to, just about anybody and everybody. And there's still a raging debate in regards to how mental health is a condition for people to be able to be eligible for that kind of a program. It's still being worked out. So we've not yet seen the end of that debate. But the fact of the matter is, Canada's healthcare system has become so unsustainable that we have had to offer the option for people to kill themselves just so that it costs less for the taxpayer to cover all these costs. And this is all just, long-winded example, right, to say that Canadians for a very long time now have been holding an undeserved chip on their shoulder, which has grown exponentially as a result of Mark Carney and his Elbows Up campaign and the stance that they've taken against the Americans. Right? Now, I'm not saying that Canadians don't have a right to be frustrated or angry at the way that America has dealt, or rather has been dealing with Canada for years now, right? I am certain that in some sector or in multiple sectors across the country, there is an unfair either tax being levied or some kind of tariff or so on and so forth that should not exist in the first place, right? Sure, you can make that argument, but this is something the trade negotiators have to work out, right? This is something those people have to work out. This is beyond the capacity of you or I. However, what is well within our capacity is the reaction that Canadians have to certain stories abroad, right? And not just the reaction, but our temperament as a nation towards America. Because look, I'm not a fan of the tariffs, but I'm also not a fan of Doug Ford making alcohol, American alcohol, essentially illegal to sell on Canadian shelves by the provincial liquor license, or rather liquor board. Right? Like, what good does that do anyone to take Jack Daniels off the shelves? I mean, really, who is that benefiting exactly? Who? I'm genuinely asking, who does that actually benefit? Because here's the thing. Doug Ford did that, right? He came out and he said, not so many words, fuck America for what they're doing, elbows up all the way. We are taking their liquor off the shelves, and it has been off the shelf for almost a year now. And guess what? The storage of that liquor has cost us $8 million to date. I'm not kidding you. This isn't satire. It has cost us $8 million to take this alcohol, all the American produced alcohol, off the shelves and to store it. $8 million. Okay? $8 million that could have gone to literally any cause. Whether it's to help with homelessness, whether it's to help with drug addiction, whether it's to help with revitalizing schools. I understand that $8 million is not a silver bullet that can fix any one of Canada's problems, but it's also not $0. It's also not an insignificant amount of money. And we're just acting like we have $8 million to spare on just the storage of liquor. Right? This elbows up thing has gone so far that the elbow is now in our eye. We have elbowed ourselves. For what? For posturing? So that these politicians can stand and grandstand to us and tell us how good of a job they're doing at having their elbows up? Look at our elbows. They're so far up. I have my elbows higher than you, so I'm a better person. Right? This is what this has become. This anti-American stance. Right? And all of this, right? All of this energy, right? The stories that I'm referring to, they culminated in a mass reaction. I think it was about, 2 weeks ago when we had the wildfires raging. The wildfires were going, right, up here in Canada. the smoke made its way down south to our neighbor, inevitably, as it does year in, year out now. And the Americans were rightfully pissed off. Right? Some people were calling for tariffs or for blockades and so on and so forth. And I saw all this energy coming from Canadians, right? Many of whom, or rather, many of the more well-known right-wing talking heads in the Canadian political sphere, and I just couldn't understand the energy, or rather their reasoning for taking this stance. Right? To say that Canada is perfectly managing its forests, that Canada is doing everything it can to ensure that something like this doesn't happen, would be nothing short of a lie. I mean, these forest fires, I understand that to an extent, obviously, we can't control everything that happens in nature, but to say that we're doing everything that we can to stop it, to manage these wildfires better, is a farce. I mean, like, genuinely, in every iteration of the word, it is a farce to believe that. Genuinely. And I don't say that because I have an innate understanding of how much money we're spending on the Fire Wildlife Service. You don't need any of that, because guess what? Guess what? You can just read a couple of stories that will explain absolutely everything to you, especially like regarding the wildfires. Right? For instance, this is from Juno News. It reads, Public Service Alliance of Canada confirmed the cuts of response staff affected the government's response to the ongoing wildfires. So, let's read on. The Carney's government's plan to reduce the number of public service employees included slashing roughly 50% from the Federal Nerve Center for Emergency Response earlier this year. According to the Public Service Alliance of Canada, the union that represents more than 245,000 workers across the country confirmed the cuts affected the government's response to the ongoing wildfires. PSAC released a statement on Thursday saying that about 60 employees at the Government Operations Center in Ottawa were informed in January that their positions were being eliminated, representing approximately half of the workforce. Here's a quote. The Government Operations Center is responsible for coordinating our national emergency response, the union's national president Sharon D'Souza told the Ottawa Citizen. Gutting it by almost half puts people across the country at risk, including frontline workers who are battling wildfires, supporting evacuations, and risking their lives. Not to mention, further down it says here, however, the problem appears to be long-standing. In 2024, the Canadian press obtained an internal memo that found that budget and staff challenges at the Nerve Center made for many overworked employees. And staff challenges at the Nerve Center made for many overworked employees with poor morale. Okay, that's got to be a miss. Okay, I guess they fucked up on the sent. All right, who's the editor? Who's the editor of Juno News? Am I misreading this? Hold on. However, the problem appeared to be long-standing. In 2024, the Canadian press obtained an internal memo that found that budget and staff challenges at the Nerve Center made for many overworked employees with poor morale. Okay, I just misread it. My mistake. Apologies to the Juno News editor. The internal memo also noted that the center had been in a structural deficit for nearly a decade. I mean, this is it any surprise then that we are not able to manage our forests? Like 60% of Canada's land is just forests. Uninhabited forests. If anything, we should be the best in the world at managing it for just the sheer size of forests that we have. Right? Should this not be part of Canada's mission to be the greatest nation on the planet? Is to be the best at managing these wildfires? Right? All these liberals that have been beating us over the head for all these years with talks of the carbon tax and climate change is real and we need to deal with it in an effective way. We cannot ignore this catastrophic, cataclysmic path that we are on. We have to do something about it. I mean, isn't this all that we've been hearing for the last 10 plus years, even before then? And yet, in January, they cut, I mean, out of every department to cut, out of every cut that needs to be made, they decided to cut 50% of the people in the Federal Nerve Center for emergency response that is across Canada. This isn't just for Ontario. This isn't just for Ottawa. Across Canada. These people are sitting in the Situation Room managing the emergency responses across Canada. And they slashed their budget, their personnel, by 50%. Now, does that mean if it was at 100% that the fires could have been tamed or that, it could have been managed better? Look, that's neither here nor there. Now we're getting into the, into the prediction market. There is no, there's no reason to even go into those maybes. But the point is that if we have wildfires, we've had wildfires for years now in every summer, and yet this is the response of the Carney government. Of all the places that they want to cut from, is this specific department. Right? Meanwhile, we recently just sent, right here it is. Let me find it to you. There's a story that Canada, as always, as is tradition, we love to send hundreds of millions of dollars to nations elsewhere on the planet to help them with the same problems that we face and that we are underfunding. And so there was a headline that stated we sent money, millions of dollars, to Brazil for wildfire management. And let's see if we can grok this. I just didn't have the article link on hand. So in 2019, we pledged 15 million. A separate Global Affairs Canada project allocated about 2.4 million, with 25% headed to Brazil. And then in July, right, where is this? Here it is. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Anita Anand, offered Brazil $125 million in energy financing and sealed a wildfire pact amid trade talks. Canada is lending roughly $82 million to help build an industrial plant on Brazil's Atlantic coast that would use fats and oils to help produce more sustainable jet fuel and diesel. We're also sending roughly $42.5 million to upgrade Brazil's electricity grid in remote regions. So, our forests are burning. We can't manage it. We have to cut 50% of the labor in the emergency response center for the entirety of Canada. And meanwhile, we are lending hundreds of millions of dollars to foreign nations. For what exactly? I genuinely don't know. I mean, it is difficult to sit here and to think that this is not happening on purpose. Genuinely. Right? And this story, this is just from today. Okay, this new one here. If your blood's not boiling yet, this one is perfect. It says here that, this is from Blacklock's, Foreign Minister Anita Anand's department billed taxpayers millions to give away free motorbikes in Ghana, but failed to provide funding for parts or fuel. It was $135 million. Taxpayers were charged for roughly 3,200 motorbikes, 260 pickups, 16 station wagons, and enough uniforms and work boots for 2,300 farm agents in Ghana. Auditors noted, quote, accountability weakness after Ghanaian farm agents could not afford to refuel the vehicles or buy spare parts. In the procurement of motorbikes, it is suspected that the combination of a fixed target of 3,000 units aligned with a number of agricultural extension agents and binding budget ceiling constraints, constraining procurement choices, contributed to the selection of lower cost, lower quality motorcycles. The Access to Information audit followed an earlier study by Ghanaian researchers that concluded the motorbike purchase was a costly failure. Farm agents complained of unavailable funding to fuel our vehicles and motorbikes. The Canadian consultants report praised Ghana as one of West Africa's most stable democracies, but with a 51% poverty rate. The $135 million motorbike program was never going to deliver structural transformation at a national scale, it said. So, our forests are burning. We cut 50% of the emergency response people in the nerve center dealing with all sorts of crises throughout Canada. We make a deal with Brazil to the tune of 80 or so, or rather, sorry, 125 million, was it, that I read? Part of which went to their wildfire management services. We have 135 million to give free motorbikes to civil servants in Ghana. And our forests burn. Toronto, for those days, had the worst air quality out of any other city on the planet, including all the top Indian cities. Right? What is the global air quality index? Let's see this. Yeah, here it is. Lahore, Pakistan had the worst, and we were even worse than them. Dubai, we were worse than them. Kuwait City, we were worse than them. Medan, Indonesia, we were worse than them. Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of the Congo, worse than them. Mexico City, we were worse than them. We beat out the Manila, Philippines, Tel Aviv, Israel, Kampala, Uganda, Jakarta. You name it. You name it. And we had worse air quality than them for roughly 2-3 days because of our mismanaged wildfires. And so the reason that I bring all this up with the wildfires, the reason that I'm rehashing this is because the reaction that many conservatives had, and I jokingly reposted some of the memes because they were genuinely funny. Like they were actually just genuinely funny. Let me see if I can find some of the photos here. This one was easily one of my favorites. I like this one. Yeah, that one was funny. Or this one, the leaf. Yo, you gotta be aware of the leaf. You gotta be wary of the leaf. Look, I reposted those in jest. I wasn't actually fucking shitting on Americans for it. I know just how bad it was in Toronto. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. It was like genuinely awful. If you were outside for a couple of hours, you were easily inhaling several packs of worth of cigarettes and potentially irreparably damaging your lungs for the rest of your life. So like, yes, all the seriousness of it, but I did appreciate some of the memes. They were actually they were quite topical. But the point of all that is to say, Americans were rightfully pissed about this. I would be too if that was happening to me. And the Canadians, most of the political commentators that I saw had this weird chip on their shoulder. Like, yeah, fuck America. We don't give a shit. You guys have been fucking us, ever since Carney came into power and even before then. So this was like a quasi revenge? I mean, I don't even know, because the wildfires were affecting everybody, regardless if you're MAGA or not, regardless if you're pro-Trump or anti-Canada or not, regardless if you're 51st state or not. Not to mention, these are, I mean, as close as we can get to brotherhood in a foreign state. America is our brother. If any crisis happens up here, they are the ones that are going to send help. If any crisis happens down there, we are going to be the ones sending help. This is a mutual partnership that will go on and live longer than Trump or Carney or you or I ever will. It's never going away, barring some kind of catastrophe. Right? We rely on these people in the same way that they rely on us. And to say that America somehow deserved this, or that it was a good thing, the amount of chatter that I saw from people that are even in the Canada First movement that were shitting on America for this, I mean, it just, what it highlighted to me was that I am in no way surprised that many Americans are now coming around to the side that, yeah, maybe we should conquer Canada. Maybe we should actually take over. Maybe we should actually make them our 51st state. All right, because I saw a lot of that rhetoric as well. They have every right to be pissed at us. If we're sending hundreds of millions of dollars that we don't even have, right? We're just borrowing from future people, sending it to foreign nations for their own wildfire management. Meanwhile, we're cutting our own services. Well, yeah, I would be pretty pissed too if I was an American and that was happening, and rightfully so. I mean, that's not even to mention, I've covered this story before. One of the major wildfires that happened in the last couple of years, I don't remember if it was Jasper. It might have been Jasper, where part of the problem with the wildfire management, and this came out in the investigation and the hearings afterwards, was that in the initial days of the response, and in fact, I believe it was in the initial hours of the response to this wildfire, the region where it had started, right, there was an issue where the fire hydrants had a different attachment to the fire hoses than the fire trucks already had installed on them. There was an adapter that they needed, and there was one single adapter that had to be shared among several fire crews. So all because of an adapter, we had all those acres burned, all those people displaced from their homes, all the wildlife that died, all the land that was scorched because of a simple human error of an adapter. Okay, so to say that Canada is immune from blame, that we are immune from accountability of our own mistakes with wildfire management, is nothing short of a lie. If we're going to sit here and if anyone is actually going to sit there and tell you legitimately, without any sarcasm or any humor behind it, that seriously, yes, we are in Canada, we are doing everything we can to manage our wildfires, and we are putting as much money as possible, I mean, that is a blatant lie. And we need to step up to that challenge, because if we are to believe the climate extremists, right, these wildfires are only going to get worse. There's only going to get more of them, right? We're only going to have more and more and more of them if we believe and we fall to their extremism, which actually isn't true. If you look on a long enough timeline going back to the 1900s and even before then, the severity and the amount of wildfires has actually gone down in incredible numbers compared to the past. But even that being said, right, we have a responsibility not just to our own people, but to the people that live below us, that we rely on, who rely on us. We owe it to ourselves and to them, more importantly ourselves, but also to them, to the Americans, to not only figure this out, but to be the best in the world at it. Like I said, 60% of Canada's landmass is forests, and we're not able to manage that. It's nothing short of an embarrassment. When this was happening, I was joking back and forth with, Americans kind of, just poking fun at some of my friends down there. But it was always with an undertone. I was telling them like, no, like I actually am sorry that you guys are going through this because of us. I am actually sorry that this even is happening to the extent that it is. And that may, some people may look at that as capitulation, as bending the knee. Look at it however the fuck you want. But at the end of the day, it is nothing short of a national embarrassment that here in Canada, in 2026, in our current year, we're not able to manage our wildfires better. Now, look, I may not be a firefighter or have any experience in wildfire management, and I understand that to an extent, once a fire gets big enough, there is literally nothing you can do to stop it or put it out. But to say that Canada can't do more, that there isn't more investments that we can make, more procurement, that we can build more water bombers, that we can hire more firefighters, to say that there is literally nothing that we can do to improve our current situation, I mean, come on, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, I just pulled up 3 stories where we cut funding to the Nerve Center, we cut their labor force in half. We're sending hundreds of millions of dollars to Ghana, of all places, for motorbikes that they can't even use. And that is just one example. If you go into the foreign investment program section of the Canadian website and you actually look through some of the contracts, Andy Lee has some great coverage on this, by the way. Andy Lee, who is on X, she's been covering stories like this for a very, very long time. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it, because she's been talking about some other like Chinese influence politics in the last little while. But if you look at her page, you'll see the extent to which Canadians, or rather the Canadian government, exports hundreds of millions of dollars to foreign nations to deal with their own issues. Meanwhile, Canadians are breathing in that good old cancer smoke, right? We're lining up at food banks at record rates. Unaffordability has never been this bad in our lifetime. People can't afford to live in a decent apartment alone, right? Let alone buy a house. And I say alone because people are they have to live with roommates, or just find people on Facebook Marketplace or Kijiji to live with. Right? We are in dire straits. Our country was literally on fire 2 weeks ago. And all these Canadians and all these influencers and all these elbows up people coming out of the woodwork to say, yeah, fuck you, America. I mean, it was just easily one of the most embarrassing moments in the last couple of months for Canada, not only on the national stage but on the global stage, that we are so inept and we are so unable to manage our own problems that are now affecting the livelihood and the health of our neighbors down south. And Canadians see this as some kind of an own. And I started this whole thing talking about the chip on the shoulder that Canadians have had, and I don't know what it's going to take for that to go away, what the nail in the coffin for that idea, for that way of thought will be. But whatever it is, we need to leave it behind. Right? I'm not saying that we need to capitulate and to bend down to the will of the Americans. Right? Yes, stand up for ourselves as a nation, but when it comes to stuff like this, I mean, if we can't even manage our wildfires, I mean, forget foreign intervention, forget foreign aid to Ukraine, forget anything. If we can't even manage our own backyard, who are we to go around the world and to tell anybody anything? And this was happening, right? That week that story was happening, it was a bit of a 1-2 punch, because there was also this story where we had a Canadian who was in America illegally, who had overstayed her visa, assault an American citizen for wearing pro-Trump gear. I think this is the video right here. Let's just give this a listen. Just like hitting a teenager. A grown woman hitting a teenager because she was wearing some MAGA fit. I think this is actually the longer video here. Okay, I don't want to get copyright, so I might have to mute that.
My wife is being detained by ICE. She's in Ocean County Jail right now.
No. This is not what I was looking for. There's a video of him, because somebody found the TikTok page. I think this is it, actually. Hold on.
Hello, it's Kate. I'm Grabmaster Hash's wife. I'm here to talk about this comment by Susie. I wanted to say hi. Hope everything's good in Toronto. So yes, as everyone has noticed, we are back in Jersey. We've been here for about 2 months. Taking so long for like us. We were in Atlantic City for. I got really fucking sick. Felt sick.
No. This is not it. No. There was some better. There was some better footage that somebody found of. Here it is. Here, yep, found it.
Cause I gotta have faith. I gotta have faith. Because I got to go for faith. I got to have faith. Baby.
Shit, I just realized that's gonna get me copyright struck. Okay, fuck. God damn it. Okay. Anyways, without the audio.
Right? He's gonna turn. Oh, he's so sick. He's been to the hospital so many fucking times. He's got it. I'm telling you, man. I'm putting my money on it this time. We need a little spice in this world. Let's go. Sick. Come on, man. Motherfucker couldn't stay awake during the Knicks game. Come on. He's gotta go. We need some good news. Come on, man. Think about how good it would be. Right before the fucking UFC 250th celebration of the fucking country or whatever the fuck it is. Oh, God, don't think about the parade. Let us throw a parade, right? It's more patriotic to throw a parade than it is to not throw a parade. We're gonna make this motherfucker's day a holiday, like not your birth, but your fucking death. You know what I'm saying? Call up the Aquabat.
Yeah, I don't want to play any more of this than I have to, but the point is, right? That's her partner. This Canadian woman that overstayed her visa, that is her partner. She agrees with his views. There are videos of her essentially saying similar things, that they wish death upon Trump and praising death of Charlie Kirk and so on and so forth. And so this was a 1-2 punch. We had the wildfires, then we had this story break off, and it is indicative of the current relationship between the people of Canada and America, and including the politicians, that it's gone beyond the playground tactics of making school shooter jokes and so on and so forth. Now we have like adults assaulting children, or rather an incident of an adult feeling so righteous in her political beliefs, so elbows up, that she and her boyfriend, because he wasn't stopping her, right, in the video, that they think it's actually perfectly okay to assault a child that disagrees with them politically. Now, this is par for the course for leftism. There's nothing new here, but it is just yet another example of just how crazy some Canadians have gotten with the elbows up thing. This unearned chip on our shoulder that we're somehow infinitely better than the Americans because we hold this moral high ground, which is non-existent. It doesn't exist. It's a figment of our collective imagination. There is no moral high ground. We are not automatically a better people just because we've elected a liberal government for the last 10 plus years, or that we let in millions of migrants, or that we hang pride flags in every school, or that we've won, quote unquote, the culture war, rather that the left has. Right, that could not be further from the truth, and yet Canadians continue to approach America and issues with America with this kind of energy, which is going nowhere fast. It's going nowhere fast. Where's the trade deal? Right? Where is the deal that Carney was elected to make? Where is the trade deal? Where is the easing of relations? Trump comes out after the wildfires saying, yeah, Canada's going to have to pay for this. They're going to use this somehow against us in our negotiations, and in my opinion, they're well within their right to. Now, I don't know if the recent tariffs that Trump has spouted are a direct result of the wildfires. He said they're not linked. He said there's going to be something separate for that. But they are well within their right to call us on our bullshit, to question why we are not funding our wildfire response, to question why we have cut personnel, why we are sending hundreds of millions of dollars overseas to Ukraine, to Brazil, to Ghana, Meanwhile, we can't even manage our own territory. This story, these two stories, are perfectly indicative of where we are as a country. We are high on our own supply, huffing our own farts, thinking we're the shit, when that could not be further from the truth. At least when America does it, right? They have a military, right? They have Apple and Microsoft and Lockheed Martin and Smith and Wesson and Jack Daniels and Coca-Cola and so on and so, I mean, the amount of companies that are revered globally that have had a sizable impact on your life, on my life, on everyone's lives that are based in America. Their cultural capital alone, I mean, for Christ's sake, half of our news in Canada is based on what's happening in America. Half of our news in Canada is based on what's happening in America. That is to what extent they influence our daily lives. And so when Americans say America first, when Americans come out with their songs of patriotism, with free bird solos, they're perfectly justified. They are. They have something to take pride in. And I'm not saying that Canada doesn't, or Canadians don't have anything to take pride in as a nation. But right now, we are missing the mark so badly. The country is being mismanaged to such a dire extent that any amount of elbows up energy, any amount of Canadian patriotism and nationalism that is being shoved on the populace through the left, right, through the Liberal Party of Canada, it's nothing but hollow. It's nothing but hollow. Right? We're making trade deals, not just trade deals, but we are integrating our nation with China, which by every single measure is an enemy state. They've imported hundreds of thousands of kilos of fentanyl precursor chemicals to our shores. They've set up illegal police stations to spy on their expats or their citizens abroad. They have stolen from our top virology lab top secret and contagious viruses, which they then took back during COVID for their own biochemical weapon research. And yet, we're opening our doors to them. We're opening our markets to them, to their EVs. We're opening our markets to further imports and integration. We're opening our intelligence agencies to them for further cooperation. They're literally poisoning us, and we welcome them with open arms and creating trade deals with them and all sorts of deals. And this is done in the service of what? Of nation building? Of making Canada less reliant on America so we go and we deal with the devil? This is all to illustrate, once again, just coming back to the central point, that the energy and the type of rhetoric that I saw during that week of the wildfires and when the incident with what's her name? Caitlin Tracy, who assaulted that teenager. The energy that many Canadians had and that like our leaders had too, making fun of America or pointing the finger at America or saying that there's only so much that we can do in Canada, was nothing short of embarrassing. I mean, I genuinely, honest to God, was embarrassed that this was our reputation, that this is what people see us as. They see us on the national stage in America and elsewhere in the world. They see us as a bunch of lefty, screeching retards who at the first push, who at the first sign of adversity crumple and start laughing at a self-made enemy. It was disgraceful. It was truly disgraceful how people were acting in those days, or rather, not how they were acting, but the kind of message that it sent about our reputation as a nation and as a united people. Canada, and I've said this before, Canada has been coasting on its relationship, or rather, Canada has been coasting on the fumes of its reputation as a kind and neighborly, loving nation. The tank is empty. We've run out of all of our goodwill. Genuinely, we have. And many Americans have woken up to this. I saw a lot of rhetoric on the American side basically saying, yeah, the myth of the nice Canadian, it has always been a myth. And to an extent, that is true. It's not that we're nice. We've had this reputation for as long as I can remember. And it's not even that we're nice, it's that we're tolerant. And that is not necessarily a good characteristic to be known for, to tolerate. And even then, even that characteristic is not entirely accurate because of the actions of Caitlin Tracy. She wasn't exactly tolerant towards that teenager, and there are millions of Canadians that share her views. That, yeah, Trump supporters should be punched, that they should be made fun of, that they should be ostracized, that they should be, you name it. Right? That has become our reputation. The screeching liberal who can't shut the fuck up, who absolutely must force the people, everyone around them, to capitulate to their needs, to their wants, because their worldview is the correct one. This is the image that we have now. This is our reputation. And we can rehabilitate it, and there is work to be done to manage it, but that wildfire reaction, right, that whole week, that was Canada's reputation in a nutshell. That is the entire reason why I'm bringing this story up, because this is not a political point to make, and I understand it's a little bit, maybe not esoteric, but we're looking at it through the lens of culture and reputation. This is a discussion on soft power, if you will. But our reserves of being a reliable, steadfast nation, right? Whatever characteristics embody that, are now no longer associated with Canada. They just aren't. They can't be in any feasible way. They cannot be. If this is how we're going to behave, if our own people are assaulting the children of our neighbor, right? If the reaction to the wildfires is, oh, America has plenty problems too, it's not all our fault. Meanwhile, we're sending fucking hundreds of millions of dollars to third world nations, or developing nations rather, instead of helping ourselves. That's why this story matters. That's why that week mattered. It showed a mirror to who Canadians are on the world stage and how we are represented by our own people. Right? That's the significance of what happened during the wildfires. That's the significance of Elbows Up. Time is out. That's it. We've run out of time on pushing that kind of message, that we are still nice and neighborly and courteous and so on and so forth, when that could not be further from the truth. And it's self-imposed. That's one of the more confusing things, is that this doesn't have to be this way. We don't have to have this kind of reputation. In fact, we could enjoy a much better reputation if there was actually some work done, not just by the people in the higher up, but by everybody involved, to actually improve our image, to rehabilitate it. And that work will come. There will be a movement towards that, right? There will be a course adjustment that is made. There has to be one. This is not sustainable. We can't keep going on like this. You can only say, at least we're not America, so much until you're sitting in a puddle of your own shit. And that's where we are now. This reputation of our healthcare system being among the best in the world and how free it is and so on and so forth. Meanwhile, since 2018, 100,000 people have died just waiting for a doctor, waiting for a procedure, waiting for a diagnostic. Canada's this vast, beautiful land of lush forests and amazing wildlife. Views that you can't enjoy elsewhere on the planet, nowhere else. And yet our forests are burning down, and we cut 50% of the emergency response unit that is dedicated to dealing with this. And we send $80 million to Brazil, part of which goes to their wildfire management. And we send $135 million to Ghana for motorcycles that they can't even use. Yeah, I know I've said this before, and I will keep saying this until it is no longer the case, but Canada right now, as it stands on the national stage here at home and elsewhere in the world, we are a fucking joke. We are a laughingstock. Nobody takes us seriously. China did not make a deal because they thought that it would be mutually beneficial. China made a deal because they know that they're going to fuck us over, that they are going to win on that deal. So did Qatar. So does the UAE. So does anybody that makes a deal with us these days. Don't even get me started on the Gordie Howe Bridge. We'll cover that in the next show tomorrow, because there's quite a bit to that story there. We just don't have the time for it today. But we have just about erased every ounce of goodwill that we have, at least with the Americans. Just about. Like, we are reaching critical levels where, like, we've been fucking around, and we're about to reach the finding out part of that graph if we keep this up. I mean, genuinely. And that's not even to mention, I came across this story the other day. This is nothing short of, you know what, this story actually perfectly encapsulates it. So, let me see here. Canadian Blackhawks grounded. Fucking Toronto Star with its goddamn paywall. Bear with me for a second, guys. This is a story where essentially, in the beginning of the Elbows Up era, there was a moment where Trump was making these overtures saying that Canada was not doing enough to control the amount of fentanyl that was going in between the borders from Canada to America, that it was not doing enough to control the slew of illegal immigrants coming from Canada to America. And so in response to this, what the Canadians did was they, the Border Patrol Services Agency, they bought Black Hawk helicopters from America, I believe. I think it was actually the RCMP, not the Border Services Agency. They bought these Black Hawk helicopters, which they flew along the border as a show of force to show the Americans, yes, we are actually willing to play ball. We are willing to make moves in order to appease your concerns regarding the illegals and the drugs coming over. Well, back in June, only a month ago, it came out that apparently, because of Canadian regulations, we had to ground those helicopters. So the millions of dollars, right? And I don't even think there's going to be a dollar figure here. Or actually, no, here it is. Yeah, Ottawa-based. Yeah, here it is. Ottawa-based Helicopter Transport Services, the RCMP supplier for 2 other chartered Black Hawk helicopters, won a contract worth up to $7.5 million to have the upgraded Black Hawk replace a competing company's Border Patrol helicopter, complete with staff and crew for this month until December. And then, the important part of the story, the third aircraft was grounded following concerns raised by Transport Canada related to regulatory considerations, and discussions between the RCMP and Transport Canada are ongoing. There is currently no confirmed timeline for when the third Black Hawk will return to service. At this time, the RCMP is operating 2 of the 3 helicopters along the nearly 9,000-kilometer Canada-US border. The RCMP did not specify what the minimum rate is or how much it has paid for the grounded helicopter so far. So we do this to appease the Americans. We do this to show them that we are a serious nation and a serious partner that will work with them in order to strengthen our borders. So we acquire this Black Hawk helicopter and we ground it because of some bullshit regulation. And it may not even be bullshit, but the point is, this isn't an oopsie poopsie. This isn't a, oh, sorry, that 7 is actually a 2, right? This isn't like a simple case of human error. The amount of people that this deal had to go through, right? The millions that it cost to procure the helicopter, to procure the crew, to schedule their flight patterns, so on and so forth. The amount of people involved in this decision making, it cannot just be due to sheer incompetence. And if that is the case, then that is ultimately even more concerning than this entire story. If our RCMP is so inept that they don't even know their own regulations when it comes to certain helicopters. Right? This is elbows up. This is Canada in a nutshell. We say that we're going to do something, right, to appease the people, to appease the masses, to appease whoever we have to appease. We go and we say, okay, on good faith, we are going to do X, Y, and Z and own up to our obligations, to you and to us. And then when it comes time to pay the Pied Piper, when it actually comes down to the brass tacks of it, we are inept. Truly inept as a nation. Either because we send hundreds of millions in dollars to foreign nations to deal with their own problems before even dealing with our own, whether it's we're cutting dire services that the entire nation depends on, whether we're grounding a helicopter because it doesn't reach some level of regulation. Is it any wonder then that people see us as a joke? Is it any wonder that no nation... Rather, no, that's extreme to say. Is it any wonder the Americans aren't taking us seriously? Is it any wonder? I mean, genuinely, is it really any surprise to anyone when stuff like this is happening that people see us as a joke? And I just want to reiterate, that brings me no pleasure to say. I don't want my nation to be thought of as a joke. I don't want us to be the laughing stock of North America. I want Canada to be a strong nation, proud of its roots, imbibed by its people, a united people of shared values and background and culture and history, in a united front to see Canada become the greatest nation on the planet, or at least to aspire towards that ideal. I want us in 100 years to be colonizing planets, interplanetary systems, mining on the moon, whatever the fuck it takes to reach the next level. I don't want 1 Canada arm out in space. I want 100. I want a spacefaring, colonizing force to be carrying out expeditions into deep space in 100 years. I want this nation to have high-speed rail, to have the best healthcare system, to have the best quality of food, the best quality of jobs, the best quality of opportunities for those brave enough to take them on. This nation should be building titans of industry. We have no excuse whatsoever. So to sum it all down, that week when those stories were happening, it was just yet another reminder. When push comes to shove, when it's actually a difficult time and Canadians need to step up, we fall short. And we have been falling short for a very long time as a nation. And falling short, that doesn't even come close to it. We have failed. But that being said, that does not mean that we cannot succeed. That does not mean that we cannot improve. And we will. We have to. We owe it to ourselves and to future generations to build a nation that people can be proud of. A nation that is a contender for the best nation on the planet of the Earth. On the planet of Earth, rather. I misspoke. There is no reason why Canada cannot be the greatest place on this planet. I cannot fathom of one. And we should be doing everything in our power to make that so. Because anything short of that, what's the point? What's the point if you're not going to play for keeps? What's the point? So, that being said, there's not really anything else that I wanted to cover today, and a little bit short for time, so I am going to have to cut it here. Let's just, let me just pull up all the links again. So, as always, thank you all for joining me on another episode of Canada First. We will be back tomorrow with my co-host, Mr. Fireside Talks, about either 6 or 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so tune in for that. If you go to bio.link/whitepill, which I will drop in the chat right this second, that has all the links and everything that you need to keep up with the Canada First project. You can find that link in the description of every episode and every stream. So by all means, go and check it out. If you do want to support the show, like, comment, share, subscribe on Rumble. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Rumble is the main platform from where I stream and post all my videos. So that's the place where you got to go. Check out the Telegram. I'm fairly active in there. If you want to ask me some questions, you're more than welcome to join there. That would be the best place to get any live updates on what is happening, when the streams are going down, any new merch that's dropping. It will always be in Telegram and obviously also on X. If you'd like to show just how high you can hold those elbows, we do have stickers for you. 2 new stickers. We have a Crookfield and Don't Question Brookfield. The lovely Mark Carney. Look at that grayscale. Look at that font. Truly astounding levels of craftsmanship here. It's about $7 for a sticker. I believe it's 5 for 20 and 10 for 35, I believe. So yeah, the more you buy, the more you save. These are quality stickers, waterproof, weatherproof, what have you. Big fuckers too. They're about 5 by 5 inches, so like something like that. If that is 5 inches, I believe that's 5 inches. Yeah, it's roughly 5 inches. So yeah, check them out there. More merch on the way. T-shirts, hats, shirts, or rather hoodies and all that in the pipeline. So stay tuned for that. There is also a referral code. Referral code is WHITEPILL. It is in the description of, like I said, every stream episode. So you can find it there. And besides that, yes, I do not read any donations on stream. So if you'd like to have your question read aloud, you would have to send it to the PayPal, the link for which is right up there. You can also send some crypto our way if you'd like to support us by that means instead. And yeah, without further ado, we'll see you guys this coming Wednesday, or rather tomorrow, at about 6 or 7 p.m. So until then, I hope you have yourself a lovely rest of your day.